Hello YouTube, this is Yucca with my 12th guide on Java development, and we'll be looking at the dot operator in this tutorial. And the dot operator is probably the most widely used operator in the Java programming language, and there are numerous operators, some of which we use to test for conditions in our code, so that we can modify and make assessments with regards to data and so forth. But the dot operator is extensively used to interact with objects and members of objects. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to use the user class that we're busy developing and will continue to develop, and the dot operator, and I'm going to show you the Java application program interface as well, just to bring relevance to this tutorial. But once we have an object up and running, we use the dot operator to interact with or to use members located upon the object that you're dealing with. So obviously the first thing we need to do, and we'll do in this tutorial, is we need to create an object to demonstrate the dot operator. Now the dot operator, and let's create a user object here in our main method, and we'll give it a reference variable identifier of user1, and the dot operator can only be used on variables that are object types, and if you wish to use a method so forth for numeric or primitive data, then later we'll get to tutorials on wrappers for numeric data and so forth. But we're creating a new user here, and I'm going to show you the dot operator is very simple. We have been interacting with it in the previous tutorials already. So now we have a new user here, and just to burn something in here I didn't discuss in the previous tutorial, this is a local variable and not an instance variable. Local variables are defined within methods, and this user1 here, which is the reference variable for our new user, is a local variable to the main method, and it can only be used within the main method. Anyways, getting back to the dot operator, once you have a reference variable to an object, and once again the dot operator is only relevant with regards to variables that represent objects and not primitives. So once you have a reference variable to object, like we've created a new user here, and we're going to create an additional method in our user class, and we're going to call it public void give me a sec. So outside our main method, I'm going to create an additional method here, and I'm going to call it just a confirm valid code. Just doing this method just to print out for the tutorial, and that we get no errors and so forth. And we're just going to do a print line statement, and we'll use the print line statement to explore the dot operator further. And we're also going to visit the Java application program interface, and just give me a sec here. Right, so now we have a method here, and once we have a reference variable to an object, we've created a user object here, we can use that reference variable along with the dot operator to interact with the object's application program interface, or mainly the members of the object. In other words, our user class here, which we've created an object out of, once we have a reference variable or identifier to an object once we've created an object with a new keyword. Then we can interact with members, provided they are public and provided, as per the previous tutorial, we have valid access to those modifiers based upon packaging structure. Then we call upon variables and methods located within that class or the object using the dot operator. And to demonstrate this, we'll use our user1 method that we just created and confirm valid code. So now we've called upon the confirm valid code method, which we've just created for this tutorial using the dot operator. And as mentioned, there are several operators, but the dot operator is the most extensively used operator, and we use it to interact with object data or members of an object, including methods of an object. And to verify this, I'm just going to do a print line statement within this method that I created, and I'm going to print, just give me a sec, valid code demonstrating the dot operator. Let's get rid of my caps lock here. And we'll see a message here confirming that the code here is working and so forth, if you've been following my guides. And the dot operator, once again, is used to call upon methods, possibly variables, provided you have access, as per the previous tutorial, with access modifiers. And we use the dot operator to interact with the members of the object that we have a reference variable to. And this dot operator can also be used for chaining of methods and objects. And as an example, given that we can return, let's create an additional method here, and we'll call it chained user. And the chained user just give me a sec. So our chained user will return an object of user type, just to demonstrate that we use the dot operator to chain method calls and so forth. So now the method we're creating here will return a user object, and to demonstrate that, we're going to create just a return user method, and just give me a sec. And first thing we'll do is create a return statement here, and we'll create a local user, user user2 equals new user. So now we've created a second user which is local to our return user method here, and all this will do, and we can create a create a print line statement here. Just give me a sec. Second user create returned from method. So for demonstration purposes, continuing, and get rid of this caps lock here, sorry. So now we have two methods. One returns a user object, and once we've interacted with that method, we can use the dot operator to interact with the user reference variable, which is returned from the method which we created here. So as an example, we're going to create a new user here as we did, and we confirm the valid code, and we'll create user, another user, a third user, and user 3 equals new user. Now we have a third user object, and just get rid of the error here in my code, and we're going to return the user 2 from this method which I created here, the return user method. Note that the method only prints a random message here and will return a reference to the user 2 that we created that is local to this method. In other words, we can't access this user 2 reference variable from anywhere else other than in this method, but just to satisfy the code here and get rid of the errors, I'm going to return the user 2. If you just give me a sec, and because it's a statement, terminated, get rid of all my errors here in the code. And for the demonstration, getting back to the dot operator example here, we have our user 1 object created, and we confirm the valid code, and then we create a user 3, and we'll call upon the call user 3 here, and user 3 dot, and we'll call upon the method that we created, return user, and then we'll use the dot operator again. And we're able to use the dot operator again because our return user method has, or does, return a reference variable to our third user object which we created. And just rectify this here just so that you're with me. User 3, and once we confirm or return the user, and we just put in a semicolon here, all the errors are fixed in the code. The code should run perfectly, and we've interacted with user 3 here. We've called upon the return user method, and we're going to do one last print line statement, and we're going to say chained method call using third user. So the point of the dot operator is to interact with the members of a Java object, and in this tutorial I've demonstrated that we've created a user object and we've called upon the confirm valid code method, and we've also used the dot operator to interact with additional methods, or to interact with objects or references to objects that are returned from methods. So the dot operator allows you to interact with variables and methods or members of a Java object, and they allow you to chain your programming or your code in order to interact with other objects and members located in other objects. Now, as a last example, I'll go to visit the Java application program interface, and I'll demonstrate the print line statement that we've been using in previous tutorials, and go to the Java API 7 Oracle documentation, and we'll look at the system out print line method, and I'll explain it to you how this is structured. So in the java.language package, and just to show you the code that I've been referring to here, I've been using the system class, the out variable, and the print line method. Note how they are chained together. We have our system, which is the Java provided class. We have an out variable, and we use the print line method here. We've used this several times in the previous tutorials, and the dot operator allows us to interact with the system class. I presume the out variable is static because we don't create a new system class. So let's just go and verify that. Yeah, you see there that the print stream is a static. In other words, we can call upon it without creating a new system class, and all representations of the print stream are the same irrespective of how many system classes one would be able to create, and thus it is static. Getting back to the tutorial here, I'm just going to run our example, our user class here which we're developing, and we've created second user, created and returned from method. Then we use that user to call upon a third user, and we'll just run the code here, see the output. So valid code demonstrating the dot operator as expected. Then we created a second user and returned it from the method, and we created a method call using a chained method call using our third user, and we exit with a zero code here. So all the code I written in this tutorial and example works fine. It demonstrates the dot operator, and perhaps as a last demonstration, I'll go to the java.language package which we've made use of, the system class, and go to java.lang. If you just give me a sec. Go to java.lang package, go to our system class, and look at the variables here. You should find the out variable, or field. Get a list of fields here, and you see we have the out variable here, and using the out variable, which refers to the print stream, we can interact with methods that are located in the print stream object, and we can use the print line method and so forth, using chaining of method calls and variables and members and so forth. So the dot operator is used to interact with members of a Java class file, including variables. And variables can in turn refer to objects, and objects can have methods, and you can use methods to return reference variables to objects, and you can use the dot operator to link your code, and the possibilities and of that are pretty much endless. And you link your code through the dot operator, and you call upon members of a Java object using the dot operator. In our next guide, we're going to be looking at encapsulation, which is one of the core concepts of object-oriented programming, So I hope to see you in my next guide. Thank you for watching.